To be great at wall balls, you have to be able to move great. And you might be stuck on a plateau because you don't have the appropriate skill to get better at wall balls. In this video, I'm going to show you how to improve your squat patterns, how to improve your mobility, and how to build bulletproof shoulders to make sure that next time you come into wall balls, you're feeling confident that you can get them done the way that you want to. Wall balls have the highest variance of any station in Hyrox. Between a good finish and a poor finish, it is a lot of time across all competitors. So if you're not drilling yourself to get better at wall balls, you're not going to find your ultimate potential. So that's why it's really important to build these skills and to take time away from just hammering wall ball workouts, because you're not gonna be able to outwork your poor movement patterns. First thing we're gonna talk about is your squat mobility. And I must say, I'm not a physical therapist, I'm not a movement specialist. I'm simply telling you what's worked for me in the past and the things that I see athletes struggle with at races and that I've worked with as a coach. So oftentimes we see athletes who are going to have a hard time get themselves into an appropriate squat position. This kind of dips their chest forward and it doesn't allow them to be as efficient as possible. And the first place that you want to look when it comes to poor squat mobility is your ankles. If you don't have the ability to dorsiflex or flex your toes toward your shin, then you're not going to be able to drop your butt down and keep your chest upright. So oftentimes when you see athletes who are tipping themselves forward, they don't have that ability to flex the front of their ankles. So a few ways to work around this is to improve your ability progressively to squat deeply into that position. So a great tool here is to use something that is going to elevate your heel to reduce the amount of dorsiflexion that you have in that squat, and then progressively lower it down as you get better and more mobile. Using wedges for your heels or using small plates that you can progressively get less and less is a great way to make sure that those movement patterns that you have do become better and better. Eventually, you will be able to squat in a good flex position with more and more repetitions. So another thing that I really like to do are squat holds, holding yourselves in the squat position. Now, if you are tipping forward too much, you're going to want to use some kind of rack or band or something that's gonna help keep you upright so that you are not tipping yourselves into an improper position. And I like to hold this position for an extended amount of time. So that could be 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, progressively getting more and more over time. In my personal practice, this has helped a ton when it comes to the ability to get into that good squat position. And you're gonna wanna work on the ankle mobility itself through different ways of mobilizing your ankle and moving in and out of these positions, or mobilizing the soft tissue around that. It could be your shins, it could be your actual ankle itself, working on your feet, your calves. All these things might be tying your ankles in a position that you don't want them to be. It's gonna be less advantageous for the wall balls. So making sure that you are taking time to work on mobility on the front of your legs and your ankles is gonna be very helpful long term. Another place where we're gonna see a lot of mobility issues will be in your hips and your lower back. I kind of tie these two together because it's hard to differentiate off of what's limiting the ability for people to get lower when it comes to their hip mobility. A couple of stretches that I love are the couch stretch. It's gonna be a very intense stretch in your hip flexor. Other things I like to do is to mobilize my midsection to make sure that my ribs and my pelvis can move independently, and so that I'm able to kind of breathe in these proper positions and not be kind of glued in one spot. This can be really taxing on your lower back, which could hurt your hip mobility in general. So taking time to work on the front of your hips and your lower back is going to help your ability to squat in a position without pain. And of course, we want to make sure that our shoulders and our upper back have the ability to move well into the positions. Now, for the most part, we can get away with wall balls without needing to have it be directly over our head. The position that we throw it is slightly out in front of us, so we don't have to have perfect overhead mobility, but it is helpful to make sure that our thoracic and our shoulders are working really well. So for thoracic mobility, there's a variety of kind of book openers, thread the needles, anything that's going to give you like that twisting motion up top that could be very helpful. I also like working my shoulders into a broad range of motion, doing things like plate figure eights and pass-throughs. So working on mobility is going to be a work in progress. It's slow progress over time that has to be done consistently. If you want to get better at wall balls, you will do this mobility. There's no real way around it. But as you're improving your mobility, you can improve your strength in many of the wall ball positions without just doing wall balls themselves. So I'm gonna touch on a couple of accessory movements that will help you get better at wall balls by building strength in these different positions. So first, if your lower body is your limiter, if your legs are kind of blowing up during the event, you want to spend time working on your lower body. I found goblet squats are a very effective tool when it comes to this, especially raising the heels. So if your ankles are the issue here, then putting yourselves on that pitch and then doing goblet squats is a great way that you can work on that quad strength that is needed while putting your arms in the position of the wall ball. So having something in the front of your body is just going to help you stay in a proper position. So oftentimes when we're talking about back squats or anything that's racked up top, it can be kind of hard, or anything that's like barbell, it can be kind of hard to maintain an appropriate position. But something like a goblet squat is going to be easier to keep your chest nice and tall with the weight out in front of you. A dumbbell front squat is also a great way to build this type of strength while improving your ability to brace under load. With the wall balls, you are catching the wall ball on its way down each time, so you are gonna have to brace your core. So working on something that is going to load you so that you are needing to stay braced is going to be very helpful. I prefer dumbbells over barbell because the position is just a little bit easier for most of us, and we can kind of load that up. If you have good front squat position, good mobility here, that's also a good option because you can go a little bit heavier with the training. And then outside of that, doing things that are gonna basically just blow your legs up, high volume jump squats, high volume jump lunges, and even things like C2 intervals can be very helpful when it comes to building that muscular endurance and your ability to produce lactate so that you can do more work under fatigue. For your upper body, one of my favorite movements to do for this is called the landmine press. The landmine press is a way that you can overload the weight fairly heavy and press into a position that is going to be within your range of motion. Oftentimes we want to do things like strict press or push press, but if we don't have good upper body mobility, we're not going to be able to get into the proper position, and having that load out in front of you unanchored can be pretty dangerous and can hurt your shoulders. So having the weight anchored to the ground and pressing things straight out is a very safe position and can give you almost the exact range of motion that you need for the actual wall ball itself. So putting yourself in a landmine position and learning how to do this is a really helpful way to build up your shoulder strength and endurance. Then we don't need to overthink it. We could just do push-ups for our shoulder strength. We can do things like push press or strict press. Again, I prefer a dumbbell that's going to put us in a better position here, as opposed to a barbell, which is going to be a little bit more restrictive in how we can move it. And of course, we can just do the wall balls without the squat. Doing wall ball push press or seated wall balls is a great way to work on the actual position that you're going to be when throwing the wall ball to really build up your specific strength and endurance in your shoulders. Some things that I really advise against would be doing barbell or dumbbell thrusters. Now, these are a great tool if you already have the appropriate movement. If you are not moving well, then you are not going to be able to get the same effect that you want to get out of these movements because the movement patterns are still going to be wonky. So I would steer clear of those as you're building up your mobility until you can effectively do a wall ball in the right position. There's no point to do a thruster because it will be the same limitations. The training and the movement will get you very prepared for this final station. However, if your strategy is not on point, then you will not be able to maximize this. In this next video, I'm going to talk about what strategies you should do to make sure that you get into that wall ball station feeling like you can execute and you can come out with the best possible result.